Hello everyone, my name is Marco Cominelli and I'm a PhD student at the University of Brescia. In this talk, I will discuss about an important privacy concern in Bluetooth Classic and present a system that we developed to de-anonymize Bluetooth devices in an efficient way using affordable software-defined radios. With the term de-anonymization, we refer to the capability of univocally identifying a device, usually associated to a specific user, so that it is possible to track users' movements. This has serious implications on users' privacy, as we will see in this presentation. But before presenting the details of the attack and the results that we obtained, let's start by making clear what's our scope. Bluetooth comprises two different sets of protocols, one called Bluetooth Basic Rate Enhanced Data Rate, or Bluetooth Classic for short, and the newer one called Bluetooth Low Energy. Bluetooth Classic and Bluetooth Low Energy are not compatible one with the other, but they're both widely used today. Bluetooth Classic is generally adopted in devices for music streaming such as wireless speakers, headphones, and car audio systems. On the other hand, Bluetooth Low Energy is gaining traction as the leading standard in small health monitoring systems and in fitness devices. In this talk, we will discuss about Bluetooth Classic only. In fact, while other standards such as Wi-Fi or even Bluetooth Low Energy made efforts to hide the identity of a device and prevent user tracking, billions of devices using Bluetooth Classic are severely exposed to this kind of attack. Even if Bluetooth devices can form networks with complex topologies, almost all the connections follow a simple master-slave paradigm. The master has the task of coordinating the session, choosing some parameters and regulating connection timings. Usually the master device is the one with greater computing capability, but roles can be inverted in some applications. For example, when a phone is connected to the Bluetooth system of a car, the car becomes the master usually. Each device has a unique physical address, a sequence of 6 bytes called Bluetooth address. This address is fixed and it's used to identify each device. One of the distinctive features of Bluetooth is the frequency hopping access scheme. Access to the medium is regulated both in time and frequency. In the frequency domain, there are 79 narrow-band channels, while the time axis is subdivided in slots of 625 microseconds. This method proved quite effective in the past against eavesdropping. The pseudo-random hopping sequence, which is exchanged at the beginning of a Bluetooth session, is supposed to be known only by the master and the slave of that session. Things are even made more difficult by the fact that devices might transmit on one channel for less than 625 microseconds. Ubertooth is a device that has been widely used to snoop on Bluetooth communications. However, despite being affordable and easy to set up, Ubertooth is able to capture only one single channel at a time. This means that an attacker that wants to track a Bluetooth connection has to wait for a considerably long amount of time in order to determine the hopping sequence and follow a session. Moreover, since it is limited to single-channel sniffing, it is impossible to track multiple connections simultaneously using Ubertooth. We will see how to circumvent all these limitations by developing a wideband sniffer which is capable of capturing all the channels in parallel. But let's see what's the critical issue with Bluetooth Classic. The address of the master device is constantly used during a Bluetooth session, and it's somewhat hidden inside every packet exchanged. We are now going to show how the address is hidden in the packet and how we can reveal it with a completely passive attack. Uncovering the master address will enable an attacker to track a user as he moves around in a city. In this slide, we show the general format of a Bluetooth packet. After a very short preamble, a synchronization word is used to discriminate among different Bluetooth sessions. The sync word contains the LAP, that is the lower address part of the master address in clear, so we can recover one part of the address just by reading this field. The remaining part of the master address, however, the upper address part, or UAP, is not actually present in the packet, but is leaking from the specific error correction mechanism used in the header. Our goal at this point is to determine the master's UAP by reversing what we could call address obfuscation. This is what happens between transmitter and receiver. The transmitter protects the header with a code based on the UAP, then uses a 6-bit clock value to whiten the bits of the header. The scrambled header is the one that gets transmitted in the packet. The receiver then can recover the header using the same clock and verify the data in the header using the master UAP. Without knowing the UAP and the clock, even if we could sniff two packets in two different locations, we would have little knowledge that the two packets are coming from the same connection. However, since there are approximately 16,000 possible pairs of UAP and clock, finding the right one with brute force is feasible. This is what can be done when one packet is received. The header is first de-whitened using all the 64 clock values. Then, for every clock value, we find which UAP validates the header data. In practice, we demonstrate in the paper that there are only 32 different UAPs for every packet. The method then works iteratively by removing all the wrong candidates and converging to the correct UAP. We prove that when only two UAPs are left, this last ambiguity can be solved only with some analysis on the payload of the packet. This method becomes even more powerful if we could collect all the packets from all Bluetooth sessions, defeating the hopping mechanism by snooping on all the 79 channels in parallel. To solve this challenge, we developed a wideband sniffer using software-defined radios. Our system is based on the USRP B210, which provides up to 56 megasamples per second. However, since the 2.4 GHz band used by Bluetooth is 80 MHz wide, we need two of them to capture all the Bluetooth channels in parallel. We set the two boards to capture different parts of the spectrum so that all the narrow-band Bluetooth channels are captured. We then used efficient signal processing techniques, such as polyphase filtering, to separate all the channels and process all the Bluetooth packets received. It's important that the data streams from the two boards are synchronized. For this, we would need a common clock source, or at least some way to synchronize the samples during the processing phase in the software. The implementation details about this part are discussed in the paper. For now, we will focus only on how do we process each data stream coming from the software-defined radio. Each SDR is configured to provide a stream of IQ samples from a different part of the spectrum at a rate of 44 megasamples per second. The wideband signal is then channelized into many narrowband signals, each one containing the spectral information of a different Bluetooth channel. We demodulate and decode each channel independently, looking for Bluetooth packets. Finally, we aggregate all the information in RAM and proceed with the de-anonymization of the connection that we have detected. To evaluate the performance of our system, we set up three different scenarios. I'm going to show you first how the system performs when uncovering multiple target connections in parallel. Then I'm going to discuss how performance degrades when we reduce the number of channels we are snooping on, therefore when we reduce the bandwidth of our system. Finally, I will compare our system with Ubertooth. Let's start from the first scenario, in which we set up 25 target connections. In this experiment, we would like to evaluate empirically the capability of our system to track and de-anonymize a large number of Bluetooth connections in parallel. This is definitely not possible with other open source sniffer that can capture only one single channel at a time. We are measuring how much Bluetooth traffic do we have to sniff in order to uncover all the 25 masters UAPs. In the graph, we reported the empirical cumulative density function of the time. We see that in all the cases we uncovered the 25 target UAPs with less than 4 seconds of live traffic. It's interesting to notice that 80% of the times we need to snoop on less than 1 second of traffic to uncover all the UAPs. It's also important to notice that even if data are not exchanged, Bluetooth sessions remain active with keep alive frames that maintain master and slave synchronized on the same hopping sequence. Therefore, we run again our system where the target connections are exchanging keep alive frames only. In this case, we still need less than 2 seconds of traffic to recover all the addresses 80% of the times. This experiment proves that our system is capable of handling a large amount of Bluetooth sessions happening in parallel at the same time. When we reduce the number of channels that we are snooping on, it's easy to imagine that performance will degrade. This box plot shows how much traffic do we need to capture in order to solve the UAP of a target connection. While the median when snooping on all channels is only about 12 milliseconds, it can go up to almost 1 second if we restrict ourselves to single channel sniffing. The most interesting part, however, is that performance quickly improves if we snoop on just a bunch of channels. For example, if we snoop on only 10 channels, then we are going to find the master UAP in less than 74 milliseconds half of the times. The main advantage is that a 10-channel sniffer requires much less bandwidth and can be implemented on a single SDR working in real time with a host laptop. This brings us to our third scenario, where we compare the performance of our real-time 8-channel sniffer with Ubertooth. We chose Ubertooth as a reference because it was the first device that attempted to de-anonymize Bluetooth connections, and even if it can sniff just one channel at a time, it is affordable and well established in the research community. Our target connection here is a Bluetooth session between a smartphone and the audio system of a car, in which music is being played through the car speakers. Also in this graph, we are plotting the cumulative density functions. These results show that our system clearly outperforms Ubertooth in terms of de-anonymization speed. While our system always resolves the correct UAP in about 2 seconds or less, Ubertooth can take up to 30 seconds or more to resolve it. One reason is that it is more likely for our system to find new packets because we are snooping on more channels in parallel. Also, Ubertooth tries to determine the UAP of the master device by running sanity checks on some fields in the packet and choosing the most probable UAP. So, there might be some packet types that are not useful for Ubertooth to determine the UAP. This becomes more evident when we consider the case in which only keep alive packets are exchanged. That is, when music streaming is off. The gap here becomes even bigger because our system does not rely on the specific type of packets that are exchanged. While differences in our system are barely noticeable, Ubertooth can recover the correct UAP in less than 18 seconds only half of the times, and in less than 1 minute 80% of the times. We validated this comparison by running experiments with different target connections and verifying that in all cases our sniffer is faster than Ubertooth at solving the master UAP. Here, for example, we are streaming music from a smartphone to a Bluetooth loudspeaker. In this graph, we can see that the results are pretty the same as before, both when music streaming is on and off, with Ubertooth resolving the correct UAP only 80% of the times in less than 1 minute, if music streaming is off. Having a system that is faster at resolving the target UAP is not only useful. In some cases, this might be necessary. From this graph, we see that if, for example, we are in a high mobility setting where we can sniff only 4 seconds of Bluetooth traffic, our system can always uncover the target UAP, while Ubertooth can do this only 1 time out of 5 on average if music streaming is on, and 1 time out of 10 if music streaming is off. After running these experiments in controlled environment, we deployed our system on the field, monitoring the traffic at the road junction for 5 working days in order to track commuting patterns. We used a directional antenna to detect cars up to 85 meters from our receiver. These are the results obtained for 30 different users. For each user on the x-axis, we report the times that he was passing by that road junction for each one of the 5 days. From the data collected, we can notice some commuters moving at very precise times once or twice a day. We believe that the ability of predicting a user behavior or collecting information about his movements has a strong implication on user privacy. This scenario is probably the most challenging one, because cars moving at normal speed are going to be within sniffing range for a few seconds only. Using our system, however, we demonstrate that it's possible to quickly and reliably uncover Bluetooth connections. As a last experiment, we placed our 8-channel sniffer in our car and tried to uncover Bluetooth connections as we drove on the highway. We were able to identify more than 250 different users in approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes. In the graph, blue dots and red crosses are used to discriminate adjacent users. We can see that we encounter the same drivers multiple times along the journey, as cars may be overtaking and then slowing down. We can also see that there were 2 episodes of slow traffic where we keep detecting the same users for a very long time. To summarize what I said in this presentation, bottom line is that Bluetooth Classic is highly vulnerable to privacy-infringing attacks. We discovered that attackers can set up inexpensive stations to track users, either for surveillance purposes, for example in airports or other transportation hubs, or for monitoring users' movements, as it's happening nowadays with the COVID emergency. To the best of our knowledge, there are no plans for fixing a problem that could affect billions of devices and users. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth Low Energy, and 5G all have some form of protection against user identification and tracking. However, we believe that this issue seems more problematic in Bluetooth Classic, and it represents an open problem that must be addressed by the research community. To investigate on this weakness of Bluetooth Classic, we have developed a system that performs better than its direct open source competitors, and that can in principle be ported on different SDR platforms, even with less bandwidth. This concludes my presentation. For more insights on the system that we have developed, please have a look at our paper or feel free to contact us. Thank you.